next 5 years on a part-time basis, I essentially built that business to where it had like tripled my take-home pay from my consulting job, all on the side. I was able to come home, be really a work-from-home dad. It, really started to multiply. So many people that were building that. And then over the next 10 years, actually 11 years, worked with that company to continue to grow it. The company grew to almost $1 billion annual revenue company. But what I learned is, even though I was branded with a certain company, they couldn't take my skills, my influence, my network, all the things that I had developed along the way were not tied to necessarily that company. And if I could partner again with something that matched my values, that had an incredible offer, that really were about other people, then I could plug and play and bring all those skills into that. And that's what we did over the last now almost 5 years.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of Own the Exit. We're absolutely thrilled to be with you today, and we've got an unbelievable guest. I'm here in the studio with our co-host, Aaron. What's up, Aaron?
How's it going, everybody? Glad for another episode with you guys.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about the guests that we have. Over the last year and a half, I've had the privilege to get to know Wayne Johnson. Wayne built a $500 million revenue company in the health and fitness sector, and because of completely uncontrollable factors outside of his control, that he essentially lost that entire company overnight and went from $500 million revenue to nothing, had to restart, and through resilience has now built another nearly $500 million revenue organization in the health and fitness and wellness industry. And so this is a guy who's responsible for building teams that are producing almost $1 billion in sales and revenue. This is an unbelievable accomplishment, but it didn't start out that way. And we're excited to get to know and kind of hear the story of and find out how we can learn from Wayne the Train Johnson. Wayne the Train. What's up, Wayne? Thanks for joining us on Own the Exit.
Yeah, fellows, thanks so much. Just honored to be here. And, anytime that I can add value, share my story, honestly, share the things that I've learned along the way in the journey. And by no means have I arrived, you guys. I think, one of the things about me is I have 8 kids now. I know how that happens, but it's unbelievable to think how that happens. So, when you got 8 kids, you're learning things every day. Every kid is unique. And so a lot of my business skills have been able to apply to parenting and fatherhood as well. But, so just, take you back, kind of give you a little recap of who was Wayne and, how have I gotten to this place in life of building these businesses, building these organizations, and, really just a desire to impact people everywhere I go and pay it forward that way. But, I grew up, I was born in Los Angeles. My family moved to Seattle, Washington when I was 10 years old. I was a kid around, I was 10. So I had to go with them. I had to leave the beaches of California up to Seattle, Washington, the rainy state. But grew up there, went to college at University of Washington, got a business degree. And, and here's something that, I've identified, 30 years later is, we tend to only do things that we've seen or experienced or, heard. And so my dad was in tech. My parents actually built real estate, did stuff on the side. So I kind of grew up in this entrepreneurial family, and my dad even said, hey, go get a good job, but that's going to pay the bills. But, you want to build something on the side, and that's really your future. So Thankfully, I kind of had these seeds planted in me that I took forward as I started in my career. I started an IT consulting practice right away. I actually, I may not look like it, but I actually started programming computers before year 2000. And so I actually had the opportunity to, right when the whole fear of Y2K, when the world was going to shut down and the Terminators were going to come and all this stuff, I actually was, as a 23 to 25-year-old, making about $45 an hour reprogramming mainframe computers. And I actually was recruiting and building a team to go do that work. So early on, I was able to cast vision, recruit people, put people into positions to do this. And so it just kind of was part of me. And after that Y2K, just another divergent thing in that youth. I didn't really know how to manage my money well, though. One thing I did is I bought a house with that money, but I also invested a lot in the market. If anyone's old enough to remember what happened in 2001, there was a huge tech crash, and I was heavily invested in that wrongly. I learned about margin the wrong way, all that stuff. So, but it was a huge blessing, right? Everything we learn or mistakes we make, it's always about a fail forward. And so what I learned from that was to like change how I was doing my investments, change how I was doing. And honestly, I probably would not have looked at the next opportunity that came my way had I not had that happen to me. Because, I went from having like, I was like a 25-year-old with like $500,000 of assets in the market that went down to like 50,000. So I was like, I'm a genius, to like, I have no money. What's going on here? But I had my tech skills. I had all these skills that I had. And so in 2003, I actually found a direct sales company. It was in health and fitness. And, it kind of just fit that same vibe that I had of, I was like, wow, this is an incredible offer. These products are incredible. I love being able to teach other people how to, go on a journey, get healthy, but also how to build income and do that. And so the next 5 years on a part-time basis, I essentially built that business to where it had like tripled my take-home pay from my consulting job, all on the side. I was able to come home, be really a work from home dad. It, really started to multiply so many people that were building that. And then over the next 10 years, actually 11 years, worked with that company to continue to grow it. The company grew to almost $1 billion annual revenue company. And like Caleb said, in 2019, we had the opportunity to have that company really go away. And so that was, there was a whole other story behind that. But what I learned is, even though I was branded with a certain company, they couldn't take my skills, my influence, my network, all the things that I had developed along the way were not tied to necessarily that company. And if I could partner again with something that matched my values, that had an incredible offer, that really were about other people, then I could plug and play and bring all those skills into that. And that's what we did over the last now almost 5 years with a new company. And it's been an incredible journey. But, just like every company, there's obstacles, there's things you have to work through, there's pivots, COVID, all those things. But, the one thing I've learned in this long journey is, you continue to grow, you continue to move forward, you continue to have the right people around you, you work with through your values and great things that have happened. And, and then in the last, couple years, developed this real estate fund, really going back to the root of what I grew up with, of seeing real estate be this like pinnacle, exit strategy or freedom strategy for people as they're making money. And so developed the fund and, been working with you guys. And so that's kind of where I'm at now on the business professional side, is still building this, organization, helping people, but also, building the ability to help other people come into real estate and exit. And really my fund is called Exodus Legacy Trust, where I just want to help people exodus financially in a whole different way than's really being taught out there. A lot of things are about scarcity. A lot of things are about save all this money and then drain your account in retirement. And it's like, why do we have to drain our account? Why can't we build something that can continue to pay us and create a legacy for our family? So, all the things that you guys talk about, why we're so aligned.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd love to kind of back up to the moment that you pivoted from kind of the consulting, tech consulting, whether that was W-2 or contract work, that into, you were working that, building, and one of my business mentors, we featured him on this show a couple months ago, a guy named Michael Crowder. He early on, probably I was 18 or 19 years old. He said something very similar to what you said, and that's work full-time on your job and part-time on your fortune. Right. And so that's kind of how you got started, right? As you were working full-time in tech consulting, and then you saw this other opportunity, this chance to really be able to grow an organization and a business in the direct sales space in something that you were passionate about, health and fitness and wellness. How did you, I guess, make the pivot from, because a lot of people, they'd be afraid to exit that kind of cushy tech job, right? And go all
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
on the on like we're gonna trust that we can continue to scale and build this business. So talk to us a little bit about how you made that decision to kind of exit the corporate tech space and go all in on entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and this is a great question. I hope people really catch this, because one thing I'm seeing today is people are exiting the plan A too soon. People are taking a leap and they're putting all their eggs in, this, sometimes a rickety basket or something that really needs to be developed further. And so
Hmm.
one of the things, thankfully, mentors of mine and the founder of the company that I was working with, they were like, "Hey, you got to give this a 5-year commitment. You got to, you need to be making like 2 or 3 times your day job from this business, have it be stable for 6 months, have savings before you even think of doing this full time." And so that, that for me, that was always ingrained. And I came from a fairly conservative, I would say, fiscally conservative family that lived below our means. We always valued experience over a lot of stuff. And we
Yeah.
didn't have like the biggest best house or anything, but we had a house that was built on great foundation of love and the right values and things like that. So I kind of had that rootedness where, even though I saw people chasing trinkets and people getting new cars and people upgrading houses, I was always like, no, I want to do this with peace. And so
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing, is as I started to look to exit. I remember even people in our company, they're like, "Wayne, like your business, and you guys are doing better than so many people that are full time. Why don't you guys just go full time?" And again, I was always like, you know what? I want this opportunity to be so joyful and so peaceful and so amazing, to show people that you could literally build it the right way on the side, where your faith, your family, the things that are important to you never gobble up and overcome. You know, this opportunity doesn't just eat away at those things where you look up and you're like,
Yeah.
oh man, the whole thing is gain the whole world and lose your soul, right? So I never
Right.
wanted to have that type of experience, because I saw that in the tech world too. Being in Seattle, people making stock options, people making a lot of money, and it was kind of just keeping up
Sure.
with the Joneses. And I saw these IT guys that I kind of was following early in my career, and then I looked and I was like, man, like they have kids, but they're never home. Like they're gone all during the week, and their kids could play sports, and they're not there to coach their kids. Like I want to coach my kids, and so it goes back to like really having, we always hear begin with the end in mind. And
Yeah.
so like I really talk about, I want to design my life, but I have to know what my life wants to look like in in fast forward. So I got to see my kids older and work back and be like, how do I want to show up for my kids? How do I want to be around my kids? How do I want to be with my wife? How do I want to? And then I'm going to build an income that fully supports that. Because,
Wow.
there's a lot of things that I get asked to do or be a part of that I just say no to. And maybe it would grow my platform, it would grow my influence, or I could be like, have a lot more followers. But honestly, like I got 8 followers in my house that I need. I tell people all the time,
Yeah.
I say, I don't want to go like retrain all these men how to conquer the world when I have all these men in my house that need to grow up and leave the house fully equipped
Hmm.
as men. And they're
Wow.
not like, man, our dad was never home, or our dad was off helping all these people and we don't even know what to do. So I got to see the good, the bad, and the ugly of that. And I was
Yeah.
never perfect, right? I had many moments where I was out of balance, because let's face it, like to really build things, like there's seasons where you're out of balance. But even when we rebuilt our latest company, we sat all our kids down and we said, hey guys, we've had a really amazing run the last 11 years, the ones that could get it, like the older ones. And we're like, but you know what? We're rebuilding something new. And here's the vision. This is what it's going to look like. This is what it's going to take, because all these other families are depending on mom and dad. So it's going to be a little like we're going to be grinding, but we're going to have some reward. We're going to go do this together as a family. So we always tried to
Yeah.
include our kids in the vision. And even, my dad, whether he knew he was doing it or not, when he bought rental houses and we would go work on them and I would be cleaning and scrubbing, he was like, hey Wayne, this
Yeah.
is your college fund house. I was like, oh. He's like, and then this is our vacation house. Like it wasn't our
Mhm.
vacation
Yeah.
house that we went to. It was the house that paid for our vacations, right? And so
Right.
always
Yeah.
planting vision for your kids. And,
That's awesome.
you know, when you're going to pivot and start, I think you always got to know what you begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
It sounds like from your early days doing being in tech of the value, or I guess you kind of just knew of like the power of building teams, because you were even saying in when your tech work, you were even trying to get other people doing that work. So is that something that you always? Because I'm just thinking of the businesses you've built, like that it obviously just requires like large teams, and so like what's your thought on that? Because I know with a lot of entrepreneurs, like it can be easy to not like relinquish control, like or
Yeah.
just knowing how to add team members or how to build a team. Yeah, I guess what's your thought on that versus
Yeah.
to scale, like especially in the health industries, like where you've just scaled the heck out of that with like an army essentially.
Yeah.
Walk us through that.
Yeah. I think, for whatever reason, you know, I never, because maybe being around technology, I always was just like, there's always someone really smart that can figure this out. Like, I don't need to figure everything out. And so even every problem, I always knew that there was, if I could find the right people, the solution could work together. And most of the time, it was
Mhm.
not me figuring out the
Mhm.
problem. It was me just identifying the problem and then working to be like, okay, who can I find that really love this? And then it goes back to, identifying that not everyone wants to be exactly like Wayne. I have a very unique
Mhm.
personality. It's like my personality that I've tried to like slow down the most is like when someone really needs me, I'm a commander and I will get it done
Mhm.
and I will, stay up and I will like you want me on your team. Like I
Yeah.
I just have a force and an energy to, but then I also know that can blow people out of the water and that can like just overwhelm people with that intensity sometimes. And so I
Mhm.
had to learn even in my first couple of years building the team business to kind of step back and be like, whoa, not everyone can hear my voice this way. And what if I start to really identify people that can come onto the team? And I keep drawing my hands like in a circle. And one of the analogies I always say is like, we're building a round table and everyone is welcome at the table because we know every single one of
Yeah.
you has a skill set that we need. And the cool thing is we can keep making the table wider and wider. And it's not this narrow table where I'm at the head and I'm making
Yeah.
all the decisions. I want to sit down and I want to scan around and be like, hey, who's here that can solve this problem? And then who else do we need to, move some chairs over that we need at the
Yeah.
table? And just not be in scarcity. I see so many. That's so. There's so many people that I think they're not young, but they just have a young mind where they think that they have the little edge, they have the secret, and then they don't want to share it with anyone. And they spend so much time protecting that, so much energy
Mm.
protecting their secret instead of just continuing to create and continue to share and be in an abundance. And so
Yeah.
we've just always been like
Mhm.
almost open source with everything that we do, and it's always paid off because it just creates more relationships that 5 years later all of a sudden we're working with someone because we were open source that 5 years ago they could have been a competitor, but 5 years later now they're working with us because they're like, wow, you always just shared with us, you were always open, you
Yeah.
spoke life
That's
into
really good,
us.
man. Hmm.
No, that's so good. I mean, like, I think of some of the most successful people right now are I think of guys like Alex Hormozy, who I've,
Yeah.
mentioned different times. His whole entire business model is literally create, we, Aaron, we saw
Hmm.
that podcast or reel or something like that with him. We've talked about it a lot of like, if you want to dominate an industry, then the first step when you enter into that is to find the person who's doing it best, find their best product, create something slightly better than that, and then give it away for free. And it's like the idea that
Hmm.
if you can add an immense amount of value to people, um, in ways that are greater than anyone else is offering to do, then when you actually come with the ask, they're like, of course, it's that
Yeah.
kind of model of like
Building that
that.
goodwill, building
Yeah.
those relationships.
Because goodwill compounds so much faster than money, right? And so if you can
Yeah.
build that goodwill over time,
Mhm.
it's the Zig Ziglar quote that I literally, have lived by my entire life. And that's, if you help enough people get what they want, then you'll have everything you could ever want. And so,
Right.
I'd love to talk to that a little bit. Give us some examples of how that mindset and that mentality has sort of propelled your journey to a place where now you operate your business in such a way that it doesn't require your constant attention and active involvement. I mean, you've actually accomplished the dream of Own the Exit that many people are reaching for, the ability to live the lifestyle that you've designed, right? You could be there for your kids, be there for your family. You and I are talking business in the middle of the day about real estate stuff, and you're taking your kid to the thing, like doing like
Yeah.
doing all of that, and it's all the time. And so talk to us a little bit about that value first mentality and how it's helped you to build the lifestyle that you now live.
Yeah. I kid around. I say I'm the highest compensated Uber driver in Seattle for my kids because, I do, I design my life around being able to take my kids to do the things that they need to do, be there when they need me to talk to them and coach them up, work out with them, coach their teams, all that stuff. But the
Yeah.
great thing is, I've identified businesses that allow me to do that. And it's so great to do that. But I think again goes back to scarcity and just being like understanding who you are, like knowing your identity, but not ever needing to be in the spotlight is, I've been able to build these businesses where I've been able to identify like really talented people that have skill sets that are great leaders and really just do my best to pour my life into them, my experience, and come alongside them. And then even go down as they start recruiting people and bringing people to their team and just uplift them and work with them. And I always describe it as, there's that old movie, Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
If you build it, they will come. And so, I've always tried to just create an environment of success for people where, I teach them, hey, if we can build this environment, we can build this field, but I'm not going to stay here. It's like, this is your field. And so I'm going to show you everything to create the structure, create the environment of success, but you're the leader. The people love you. They want to see you. And so, like probably
Mm.
one of the funniest in some regards, some people don't like this in the space, but for my wife and I is we'll meet people all the time that meet us and they're like, "Oh, I'm in your business too." And we're like, "Oh, really? That's amazing." And they're like, who are you with?" And they describe the person. They're like, "Oh, we're with these people." And I go, "Oh yeah, they're on our team too." And they're like, "What? You're
Mm.
they're on your team?" And we're like, "Yeah." And they're like, so they're almost like, not to our credit, but we've launched people well where it's this beautiful model where they're running autonomously their business. We talk about leadership stuff, we collaborate a lot and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
we don't get in and micromanage and try to be like, hey, now you should be doing this and now you should be doing that. And we see that just stifles people. And so we've
Mhm.
always just tried to just deploy people, launch people. If you think of eagles, mama eagle's nest, like you have them in the nest at the beginning, and then it's time for them to fly and go and start to build it. And when you have a great business that has a great offer and you can find the right people, that's how it really starts to take roots and grow rapidly.
Wow. Not so good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So what I guess advice, I'm just thinking, going back, with tech, why did you not want to build something within that, especially at that time period? I'm just thinking of yourself as an entrepreneur and you're getting people working. I'm just thinking of all the fortunes that were created, right? And lost, I guess, too. But back at that time period, when you were already in that industry and your dad was as well, but then you just went into something totally different. Was it the
Yeah.
model that you liked with that, or?
Yeah, I mean, here's the ironic thing is I'm actually not that technologically savvy. So
Mhm.
I got a business degree. It was in information systems. I knew enough to be dangerous. And again, my first job. So here's something that I want to go back. Like growing up, I was always a above average athlete. I had a lot of natural ability. There were some things that just I could kind of like work my way through things. And thankfully, when I got to college, I was like, you know, I'm gonna have to like change up things. When I go to class, I'm gonna sit in the front row, and I have this mission. I'm like, I'm never gonna miss, no matter how I feel, I'm never gonna miss a day of class, and I'm always gonna sit in the front because I realized I wasn't technical. There was some of the things the guys were doing in technology that I was like, my brain is not wired to figure out these computations. And I was like, but here's what I figured
Right.
out is like, I'm really good at being a bridge between these people. Those people really like me. And actually, I can communicate with the other humans. So I can stay in this lane and really be like
Yeah.
this business analyst, salesperson. But one of the things I did, my first job, they hired me and they said, hey, which track do you want to do? You can do the computer programmer track, or you can go do the business analyst tester track. And I was like, the programmer track sounds like it's going to blow my brain out of the water. But I was like, you know what? I need to do hard things. Like, even before people used to say
Wow.
that, I was like, something in me was like, you have to take the hard path at the beginning, and you got to like know the
Mm.
deep X's and O's of all this to be like have authority with the people that you're going to go help later. And so I did that. I didn't love it. Again, it led to all that programming, the Y2K stuff. I
Mhm.
really wasn't good at that. That's why I recruited more people to come do it with me. But so I just started to figure out who I was and what my skill set was. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, if I can just identify these problems, that I can get these other tech people to do it. And at the end of the day, I just realized I'm more of a people person. I'm just not someone that's just going to sit there and introvertedly knock some of these tech things out and do all that stuff. And so it's just, I think, for everyone to really identify, what really winds your clock, and whatever skill set you're gifted with, like there's tremendous value in it if you really double down on it and focus on it and create.
Mm.
The market is demanding you to be your best of who you are, not be someone else.
Wow. No, that's so good. I really resonate, with especially what you said about, choosing, a lot of people think that the best way forward is to choose the path of least resistance. And I think early on in your entrepreneurial journey, and even at different stages of your entrepreneurial journey, like the best thing you can possibly do is volunteer for the path of greatest resistance. Right. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been recently over the last several months doing the ice plunges, right? I got one. It's set up on my back deck. We had the polar vortex sweep through Kansas City, the last set, early on in January. And it was like -3 degrees. And I'm going out every night, for 3 minutes, jumping in the ice bath and -3
Yeah.
degrees. And then the main reason I was doing it was, one, it's a total neurological reset, right? Like, it's an
Yeah.
amazing thing. It just resets the nervous system. But also, it's like, no matter what I did that day or had to do the next day or whatever, like, nothing was going to really be harder than that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was literally going to
Yeah.
self inflict pain for 3 minutes on myself, not in like a
Yeah.
weird masochist sort of way, but like,
Oh, absolutely.
but
Yeah.
choosing the path, intentionally choosing uh, to place great resistance, and that's what we do when we go to the gym, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're intentionally creating more and more resistance so that we get stronger. And why don't we do that more in our entrepreneurial journeys, right? Put ourselves in situations where we have to get stronger and have to get better. So, no, I
Yeah.
love that
No, it's
so
really
much.
good.
So,
One of the things on
what I
that,
love,
you know,
go ahead. Yeah.
oh, just real quick, one of the things on that is, if you've ever heard of a author or a clinical psychologist, Dr. Carolyn Leaf, she talks about the brain
Yeah.
science and the neuroplasticity of your brain. And, one of the things in listening to her that just really discovered is, our brain thought patterns become like ruts. And I was like thinking of
Mhm.
the old West wagon train going out West, where these wagon trains would get in these ruts and they would just have to follow. And, so many times, like you said, with the ice bath, our thought patterns are so deep in this rut where the default is to go easy. Oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And, these shock things, they just create like it's like it gets you that hard turn out of that rut where all of a
Mm,
sudden you're like, hold on, I continue to go down this rut, but it's like I'm going in a circle. I'm basically
yeah.
failing the same test every day. So how do I shock myself and create a whole new pathway in my brain. And that's the ice baths, working
Yeah.
out, doing all these different things to shake it up. So I just wanted to add that too, because I love that.
No, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. I love Dr. Caroline Leaf. I've read her a couple of her books and listened to some of her stuff on YouTube and stuff. So she's awesome. So now we're kind of at the end of the show, so we like to jump into the last 5 minutes of the show. It's what we call the exit round. When we ask everybody who comes on the show these 5 questions, we're excited to get your answer for these 5 questions. So question number 1. Here we go. Exit round. What is your favorite all-time business, entrepreneurship, or leadership book?
First, I need to know, what do I win in this exit five question round? No, I'm kidding. Okay. Those of you guys that don't know me,
questions right.
You have to get all the questions right.
and I like to win. I like to win at all costs. No.
Yep. All I do is
sometimes
win.
we win, sometimes we learn. That's another book, but that's not the book. But it is a John Maxwell book, is the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And I'll tell you, when I joined that first company, I went to a conference and John Maxwell was speaking, and I've been a Christian, but I'd never had an altar call moment. And John Maxwell was speaking, and I literally felt like my body got up. And when he was done speaking, I went to the front. He didn't have an altar call, but I accepted the leadership altar call, where I was like, this guy is talking about things that are deep in my soul that need to be uncovered. This is my moment. And that was that first book. And I have the John Maxwell Leadership Bible, which, pairs the Bible all through his leadership lessons. And, it's just a great foundation for people to know how to work with people, know yourself, and really level up your whole life. So that's hands down, the Bible, and then that book.
No, it's an exceptional book. I love it too. So,
all right. Question number 2. Wayne, what percentage of your current income is fully passive?
So this could be a trick question.
It might be
a trick answer. So on one hand, I always tell people, the word passive income, I think sometimes has a negative connotation of people are kicking back and not doing anything. So I would say 0% of my income is passive from my mind, right? I'm 100% actively engaged with all of my income, but I would say about 70% of my income really requires none of my day-to-day, none of my activity, from the real estate to the sale, the marketing organizations that we have, sales and marketing organizations, because there's so many leaders that have been developed in there. But I will say, one of the things I'm constantly doing is taking some of that income and putting it into assets, right? Continuing to put some of that income into assets that's passive now, because it's tied to a business, it's tied to the economy. There's always bumps, but right now, currently, it's about 70% to cut to the chase.
Yeah. I kind of like the term residual income over passive income, even though we use the word passive income. It's the idea is there is no such thing as passive income. Even if you had to work to pick the right investment and analyze the right opportunity, that was work, that was time spent. It's just compounding, degrees of return, as it goes from there. So, all right.
Still got to check your bank account, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's active. So, yeah. So, what's one thing that you wish that you could do more of, but your business commitments hold you back?
That's a good one, because I really feel like in some respects I've been able to design my life. It's a lot of people look at my wife and I, we've had 4 more kids in the last 6 years, and neither one of us are very young. And so it's, it's just something that we've been able to design our life around. But I personally, if I could go up skiing in the mountains a little bit more, I would probably double the skiing output and do that. And I probably would go surfing more in the summer. But again, that's the great thing about kids is, I love to do all those things, and now I get to take my kids and I get to do it with them.
Yeah.
So, I would humbly say that, I've really been able to design my days and design my life around that, which has been pretty awesome.
Love it.
Sweet, man. Okay, question number 4. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self about building a business before you ever started? 18-year-old Wayne.
Yeah. I would say I actually was a serial quitter and I was not very committed. It probably comes partially with youth, but again, um, I think sometimes when people have talent at things where they can just step on the field or step into things and excel, there's a little trap there. And so I had that trap of, there was a lot of things I was really good at. And then all of a sudden I found some things that I was like, I wanted to do, but I was like, shoot, I need to work at this. And then I was like, maybe I don't want to do it after all. So
Mm.
my younger self, I would say, level up your grit, level up your commitment, and realize that, everything you want in life is on the other side of work. It's the narrow path. Like I was just talking to my teen kids this morning, and I was like, you guys ready to pick up your machete today? And they're like, what? And I was like, the narrow path needs to be cleared. Like, stay off the wide path. Like every
Mm-hmm.
day, we're like carving your own new path. No one's going to do it for you. So you got to go chop away. It might be chopping away things at you. But so, that's for me. I had to learn that because unfortunately, I quit my football team in high school and we ended up winning the state championship the next year. The last Seattle public school to win the state championship. You think my friends reminded me of that? Oh yes, they still do.
Wow.
32 years later. So there was just these little things where God showed me. He was just like, "Hey, remember when you quit that? Like you could have had this experience and been a part of that championship." And so I just kind of
Wow.
took that with me to like, it's level up, commit, show some grit, and keep going.
Come on. So good. Last question. Question number 5. What's your strategy for creating time freedom and financial freedom for yourself? And just feel free to share 1 or 2 strategic tips of how you've either accomplished that or how you're currently engaged in, strengthening that time freedom and financial freedom for yourself and your family.
Yeah, probably. If I was maybe just starting out or I was trying to get ahead again, there's a great book, The Richest Man in Babylon, and he just
Mm,
talks about this simple concept of you make 80%, you give 10%, and 10% goes to investment to create these children investments. And so one of the things I would say is be super diligent to live below your means as you start to make money. Don't let the lifestyle creep actually, instead of lifestyle creep, let your investments creep up, because you'll be
mhm.
surprised at how little time that investment creep versus lifestyle creep can actually change your whole entire future, can create those passive incomes, can create those assets.
Yeah.
And so just, don't be short sighted. There's, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world for a reason, but
Yeah.
also, compound diligence and compound showing up every day. It's the
Mm,
same principle that like does amazing things. And that's where we know that, because we hear it everywhere of people that are successful is, the diligent, the discipline, those people that can really stay focused and stick to a plan over a really long time, not be like sensational and just go crazy, but just continue to do that discipline, diligence. Like you get that compound effect. And one day you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, what my life, what happened here? And so that's
yeah.
that's the hack, which is, it's almost so simple, it's so obvious that sometimes people don't.
Yeah.
That's another thing. There's so many things that are so simple and so obvious that people are like, that could not possibly work. And you're like, it
Yeah.
actually does work. Like it
Mm,
requires no sizzle. It's just grind. Like just
yeah.
discipline. Just do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, that's so good. And it's let your yes be yes, let your no be no, you
Yeah.
know. So that's awesome. I love that so much. Well, Wayne, man, it's been awesome being able to have you as a special guest here on Own the Exit. And we'd love for our listeners and viewers to be able to have the opportunity to get connected with you. And so, what's the, kind of the big one way that they can connect with you? Uh, you know,
Yeah. So our website, my wife and I, what we kind of everything funnels out of is risechampions.com. So if you
okay.
want to go check out risechampions.com, it has our social stuff out there and connects into everything else that we're doing. But that's kind of the main focus point is risechampions.com.
Awesome. All right. So you heard it from Wayne. If you want to get more connected with Wayne and continue to learn from him and grow, with Wayne Johnson, then check out risechampions.com. Thank you, all of our guests, again for joining us for another episode of Own the Exit. If you enjoyed this episode and are enjoying this journey of Own the Exit, it'd mean a lot to us if you would subscribe, leave us a review, and then maybe share this with a couple of friends who you think would enjoy listening to it. Aaron, any final words, man, before we close off this episode?
No, thanks, Wayne, for sharing all this stuff. I'm going to go back and listen to this again as you unpacked, decades of wisdom there on building multiple businesses and all that. And I think that's really applicable to us as entrepreneurs. We're all at different stages of the journey. And so thanks everyone for tuning in, and see you next time.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for listening to Own the Exit.